Hello. This week is Sukkot, the Jewish Feast of Booths or Feast of Tabernacles. This holiday is described in the Torah, where we are enjoined to wave the four species, arba minim in Hebrew. In the book of Leviticus it says, quote, "And you shall take on the first day of Sukkot the fruit of the beautiful citron tree, branches of palm trees, the branch of the braided myrtle tree, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. It shall be a statute forever in your generations." Unquote. Why these specific species? The Midrash says that the four species represent four types of people. The lulav, or palm tree branch, has taste but no smell, and represents those who have scholarly knowledge but do not perform good deeds, ma'asim tovim in Hebrew. The hadass, or myrtle, has no taste but smells good, and represents those who are not scholarly but perform good deeds. The aravah, or willow, has neither taste nor smell, and represents those who are neither scholarly nor perform good deeds. The etrog, or citron, both taste good and smells good, and represents those who are both scholarly and perform good deeds. Unquote. These, of course, are four corners, four extremes. Most of us are somewhere in the middle. Acquiring knowledge and performing good deeds are two pillars of Judaism, theory and practice, and we all do a little bit of both. But the interesting part is that the ceremony is deemed invalid unless all four species are present and held tightly together at the same time. Why so? What use do we have for people who are neither scholarly nor perform good deeds? We want them because we refuse to give up on anyone. By holding all four species tightly together, everybody gets a chance to absorb what he lacks from everyone else around him. As the Talmud says, Kol Yisrael Aravim ze bazeh. All Jews are responsible for one another. No one must be left behind. Everyone has value in the scheme of things, whether we perceive that value or not. It is not only the less virtuous who benefit from contact with the more virtuous, but everybody benefits from everybody else. Indeed, the Midrash passage I just quoted continues, God said, "Let them all bond together in one bundle and atone for one another," implying that everyone needs everyone else. The Talmud says, "Who is wise? He who learns from all people." Another way to make the point is what Benjamin Franklin said at the time the United States was founded. We must all hang together, or most assuredly, we will hang separately. In the military, soldiers perform their missions as one team and will never abandon one of their own in difficulty. As individuals and as a nation, we help the poor, the disadvantaged, the handicapped, so they can rise as high as their potential allows. We are one people and care for one another. So we hold the four species tightly together and wave them in all four directions, plus up and down, to acknowledge God's mastery over all creation. We also say a blessing. "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and has commanded us concerning the lulav," the palm tree branch. Something's odd here. Only the palm tree? And what about the other three species? Why are they not mentioned in the blessing? It looks like the lulav, the palm tree, is considered first among equals, as it were. Why is only the lulav mentioned? Didn't we just say that all four species must be together for the ceremony to be valid? I can only speculate. Recall that the lulav represents people who are scholarly but do not perform good deeds. Scholarly people ensure continuity. By keeping knowledge alive, they create opportunities for future generations to be observant. To maximize the number of good deeds performed over time, scholarship is critically important because it guides us and tells us in detail what we are supposed to do and how to do it to fulfill God's commandments. Absent scholarship, future generations may not be sure of what is expected of them. To paraphrase Prager and Telushkin, two best-selling authors on Jewish philosophy, without the authority of the Torah, the only thing wrong with torturing small children is that I don't like it. And that's not a good enough reason to continue following commandments. People who perform good deeds but are not scholarly certainly inspire others around them and future generations, but cannot provide authority and rationale for their actions, and because of that, their example may wane over time. What about people who are both scholarly and perform good deeds? Recall that they are symbolized by the etrog, the citron. Surely, if only one of the four groups is to be mentioned in the blessing, it should be them, as they embody the epitome of a useful life. But perhaps they are too perfect, too intense. They represent a valid goal, to be sure, but a goal that is realistically unattainable for most of us. By doing everything, they do not help us set priorities. Also, the etrog is the most expensive of the four species, and because of its shape, it must be held separately from the other three. One hand holds the etrog, and the other holds the other three. And physically, it does not easily mingle with the others. This whiff of elitism may have turned tradition away from using it for the blessing. Some say only the lulav is mentioned because it is the largest and most visible of the four. But one can say equally logically that it is the smallest that should be mentioned, so you become aware it's there. Another explanation is that the blessing, rather than dump everything on you at once, points only to the beginning, and that beginning is to study. The book of Proverbs says, "Teach a child in the way that he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." The Talmud concludes that one must begin studying the Torah at age 5. So in this view, our premise was wrong. The blessing is on the lulav alone, not because the lulav is the most important of the four, but because it points to the first step in the journey. Doing the right thing requires knowledge and planning. These must come first, and if they are good, good things usually follow. So, the message of the holiday of Sukkot is that we all need one another. The weak and the strong, the scholarly and the less scholarly, the virtuous and the less virtuous, the rich and the poor. And that is a lesson we would do well to remember. Hag Sameach.